Last night I broke down my filming setup for games, the whole rig. I started writing the script in July 2022, but I've been thinking about it for longer. And I know it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, and I doubt that too many, if anybody, will notice, but fuck it. I always hate it when channels I follow suddenly stop and leave no explanation, and I've never wanted to go out like that. So, back in early 2020, before the whole pandemic thing kicked off, I found myself in the early part of the year, with a large amount of time on my hands from a company changeover that saw me seeing the door. Now, I've been kicking around the idea of doing a gaming channel, taking a stab at it. Super inspired by stuff that 8-Bit Ryan was doing. But I also knew there was no way, no fucking way I could pull off anything remotely like that. Still, right then was a good time to try if I was ever gonna. I had a bunch of Steam games, big ass plans to buy a PS4 Pro, and uninterrupted time to myself until COVID-19 came along and fucked that last part all up. My prevailing thought for the channel came from some of the old people playing games, the reaction videos. And I thought, all right, how about a middle-aged Gen X dude playing games, talking shit on the games, and so on. Just lean into the swears and embrace that whole thing. Like we were just hanging out, kicking it, fucking around with games. I also had the idea of doing some features like the under $10 games playlist. I didn't have it entirely gelled out how the videos would go, but that's pretty much the par for YouTubers in general, including all your favorites, probably. Anyway, I launched the thing on February 2nd, 2020. I figured I'd give it a year, see if it took off, and if not, by that time I'd probably be bored and ready to start working again. It is now 3 years later, to the day. It would be hard to say that this channel is successful in terms of subscriber count or viewership, but for most of it I was having a lot of fun. I hit a lot of achievements, such as getting repeatedly copyright dinged by the bots plaguing YouTube. I got an 18 plus age restricted video twice. I worked in a reaction video or so, and I generally accomplished all I set out to do with the channel. I didn't have really a theme so much as wanting to give some love to the indie games and some of the games that were changing the narrative of what games were. I've been playing games a long fucking time. It was nice to see a very fresh breath of air from so many of these developers, and I applaud you guys. Hats off to you if I had one. But if not, thought counts, right? So the games, some of them are just wildly creative, wildly inventive, and I wanted to celebrate that. Even though I'm not bringing a lot of attention to it, I wanted to bring what I could. And of course, as you can see from the mini God of Wars and Resident Evils, I wanted to give some of the love to my most beloved games. Not all, but some of them. You can see I kicked the channel off with Resident Evil 4, still an all-time great. And it was a lot of fun, really, to see which games held up over the years and which were very much locked in the epoch where I first encountered them. Towards the end of 2021, the entire endeavor started to be more of a frustrating slog. I was starting to look at games solely in terms of whether they would fit on the channel, and even the games I played just for fun were a lot less fun. Partially because there was always a looming schedule coming up to make new content. Swear gaming was still kind of fun, but even doing low-level bullshit like I'm doing here is a certain time investment. And I found I was not only starting to lose the requisite desire to make content for this channel, there was the additional problem of opportunity cost. There was a lot of content I wanted to make for the other channels that I could not do because I did not have sufficient creative energy. There was still another problem, which was the tech. I started the channel in the only way I could. Since I didn't have a fast enough computer to use that to record while I was playing, but I did have two cameras, I set one facing me and the other facing the TV screen. I had to film at pretty low res because of yet another tech issue, which was both my editing tower and the software. It's a custom built tower from like 2007 running Windows XP. So I'd pull the SD card from the camera, transfer the files, and then I'd manipulate them on the tower using Vegas 7. Render the video, then I transfer the files back onto a hard drive, and then I would upload that from a portable hard drive on a separate laptop. Now the tower was also serving a couple other channels, which are somewhat more successful, but I'm not at the point where I can replace the tower yet. So to preserve it as long as I can, I needed to take some of the workload out. This meant dumping at least one of the channels. That was this, the one I enjoyed the least and which was also the least successful. Even though I'm now making a video I never wanted to make, reading off of a script I never wanted to write, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't also a huge relief. Incidentally, this is only the second scripted video on the entire channel for whatever that's worth. The first one was the Ode to Games I haven't done yet, which was on New Year's Eve 2022. If you want to see that. So December 31st, 2022 is when I posted it. And I mention this just because of all the gaming channels I watch regularly, which are 8-Bit Ryan, of course, Civi 11, and Darkkin. The last two I mentioned are scripted. Anyway, to wrap this up, clearly I was not making content that people wanted to watch. The idea of one thumbnail ruling them all might work for channels like Mr. Beast, but it didn't for me. The internet is forever though. So the 87 or so games on this channel, which by the way is less than 5% of the games I've ever played, the 57 playlists and 612 videos, which includes hitting every letter of the alphabet and nearly every game category that comes to mind, will remain up. I don't know how much playtime is uploaded exactly, but it's a lot. Maybe the channel will take off after the fact, and I will find it makes sense to return. 10K subs minimum for me to consider this. Or if something particularly inspiring comes along, like if Teardown adds a third part. Unlikely at best. Perhaps it's not really goodbye as much as so long, see you later, maybe. I will keep the Twitter account going, as long as Twitter's around, I guess. And periodically check it because I clearly like talking shit on video games. So, if you're interested in threads about specific games, come follow me as I do these there every so often. You can also find me on Steam and PlayStation. Finally, special thanks to 8-Bit Ryan for the inspiration, and to everyone who's ever clicked or cared. And possibly, for the very last time ever, peace out.